Hey everybody, and welcome along to the Aries After Hours podcast. I'm Robert Roy, owner of Aries, along with my co-host and heterosexual life mate, Justin Miller, owner of High Risk Rescue. This is where we step out of the classroom, have a couple drinks to unwind, and talk about, well, pretty much whatever the hell we want to. Sometimes informative, sometimes educational, hopefully always entertaining. So grab a drink or a snack, have a seat, and let's decompress. So what we're doing tonight, we're doing this 4-part series on the pillars of resiliency. We've kind of been talking about it from the military standpoint, the way they teach it to us. So we started off the first episode of the series. We did the physical pillar, which we talked about not just working out, but also finding things that you really enjoy doing, like sports. If you're a football player like you were in high school, Joey, or a basketball player, or if you like snowboarding, skiing, going for hikes, even just doing stuff around the house. We try to kind of just talk about not the typical go to the gym thing, because not everybody wants to do that. And we also talked about healthy eating to an extent, because that also plays into it. Diet, nutrition, or exercise and nutrition go together. But tonight we're going to be talking about the social pillar. So this is a little bit of a different change. It's a different gear to be in, because most people fall into either the introvert or extrovert category. And the general idea of the social pillar is to go out with friends, which is great if that's what you like to do. But if you're an introvert, if you're somebody who likes to be home, that's more work than whatever else you got going on. So we're going to talk about some different things. But I wanted to go over too, before we get started tonight, we've got the nonprofit up and running. So Aries Responder Relief Project is up and going 100%. We just got the 501c3 approval the other day, so we're finally, even with the IRS books, everything is up and ready to go. The main missions for that are going to be providing scholarship opportunities for healthcare and mostly public safety, fire, EMS, that kind of thing. Law enforcement's going to get into it, and the cool thing about it is if you apply for these scholarships and you get it, you don't have to use them at Aries. You can take it and use it at NIMSA or whatever college you want to, because the payout is going to go to whatever school. We do value it at our own tuition, but you don't have to use it with us. So you can take it to a $2,000 school and get half the tuition covers half of it, or the scholarship does. Some other things that we're doing with the nonprofit is financial assistance. Cancer right now is a leading cause of death in firefighters, and I've got 3 co-workers down at Bell Chase right now that are battling cancer because we've been swimming in PFAS for years.
Oh, wow.
And that's become a major issue. I'm trying to help them out. I was really kind of hoping that I had built this, or wishing I had built this nonprofit before, so that we could have at least got a little bit more stable and I could have done something for them. It might be too little too late, but I'm still trying. So I wanted to put that into the podcast tonight. So if any of our listeners hear about this and this is something that you want to help with, we are literally on the ground floor of this. We have to build funds as quickly as we can to try to start offering these, because even though that's
tell us a little bit about it, Rob. What is it? What does it actually do? Where's the money go?
So 3 missions within the nonprofit. So 30% of the funds go to each one. 30% goes to the scholarships, 30% goes to financial relief, 30% goes to organizational assistance. So what that is like, if a fire department needs to get new turnout gear, but they don't have the funds for it, they can apply for assistance, and 30% of the funds that come to the nonprofit will go to that. The last 10%, that's our operating amount, and we will make sure that we stay within that as we grow, so that 90% of all the income that comes in goes straight to one of those 3 things. It right now is based in New York, because that's where I was. I'm in the process of moving it down, but that's just where the company is located. We can use these funds pretty much anywhere. So if you are listening in another state, don't worry and think that this may not be something that you can access. You absolutely can. The website is www.ariesresponderrelief.org. And we'll put that in our social media as well, so that anybody can go there and see it. Like I said, it is brand new. It's on the up and coming. We're still trying to build those initial funds, but as soon as we can get something going, we will. We're going to be trying to do some different outreach events, 5Ks, for example, reaching out for vendors to see if anybody wants to do some partnered discounts. So that's where we're at right now. If you guys or if any listeners have any other ideas on ways to help it grow, help make it worthwhile for the people that are investing, then by all means, let us know. That's the big shout out that I've got for the night tonight. Anybody have anything they want to add in?
No, but we got a third in the room tonight. So let's see who we got on the other side here.
Yeah, we do. Mr. William Joseph Seal is with us tonight. What the pillar that we're talking about tonight is going to be kind of right up your alley, especially with the emergence of esports and the communities that have come with that. So, well, welcome to the podcast, Joey. If you want to go ahead, introduce yourself a little bit and we'll get started.
Sure. As Rob said, my name's William Seal, but my friends get to call me Joey. So that's what I like to go by. Kind of what I'm here to talk about is I co-own an esports org. It's all online. If you're not familiar with esports, it's kind of the competitive realm. Every sport has a profession like NFL, NBA, stuff like that. Well, people started to realize, hey, video games can be very competitive as well, and it's based around the entertainment industry. People love to watch these things, so why not broadcast it, right? What I do is I co-own a kind of like an amateur esports org. We operate within a small league called the Indie Gaming League, and we're actually in the process of branching out, but we're based on Discord. It's an application where you can build a server, much like the Ares a server for medical training, fire training, etc. Props to me for showing that to you, Rob. But pretty much,
tap myself on the back for that one. But no, while that's on there, I appreciate that. I appreciate your help with building that because it has been that platform is powerful. You were absolutely right when you approached me about it. It's been priceless for us. The community building has been fantastic.
Good deal. I'm really excited that it's working out, and that's kind of exactly what I was about to get on about was the community aspect of that. What happens is a lot of people come together within these communities that are like-minded and are looking for the same thing. When we're talking about social interaction, I think it's top notch for people within that industry. We had talked about this before, Rob. People that are introverted, it's a way to bring people together that we don't really have physical interaction with, but we can still share our ideas and experiences together and have a little bit of fun as a hobby, right? I think that's whenever I stepped into Astro, I don't want y'all to think I founded Astro. I'm actually not one of the original founders. Started off with these two guys named Jordan and Casper, and they're great. They're really young. I kind of came in and it was really, really small. And I had left different communities because of how they treated people. And I said, well, whenever I come in, I don't want to be treated wrong. And I found this place and they treated people great. They were just really friendly. So I stuck around. Turns out they had a little bit of administrative issues. I talked to them. They got to know me and they're like, wow, some of the ideas you have are really well. So they work really well. So they kind of shot me up the ladder as an administrator and eventually made me part owner of the company or the organization, I should say. And it was pretty much based on treating people well. I said, let's instill, a span of control among our administrators where they, we delegated certain responsibilities and it's people first. That's always been my thing. No matter what is we're going to treat our people well. There's no reason for treating people bad or getting mad at someone if they lose. Instead, we coach them, right? And it's all about bringing people together. Another aspect that we hit on this is just that, like letting people come together, not having to worry about things. It's about creating an environment where you can come in and watch our teams, try out for our teams, enjoy the entertainment that we have within our Discord with each other. We don't allow toxicity or anything, as I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the video game industry. But once online came on, people like you can even see it on early days of MySpace and Facebook. People found it real.
I remember like the little German kid screaming at people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. It's awesome that these communities are built this way, especially for introverts and people who may not handle aggression very well, for example. It's one thing if you're in the military and you've kind of been trained to handle that stuff, but not everybody has. And so you get into these unrestricted environments like Facebook, for example, And people, you may put something out there looking for a group to join, and the first response may be somebody screaming, "I hate you, and I hate the things you like," and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you don't have that in these communities. And that's one of the greatest things about this, because the point of tonight's episode is that social aspect, that finding something that you can do that gets you away from the isolation. Because again, all these pillars are designed to build your resiliency and help you fight when the world starts trying to knock you down and then kick you while you're there. Working out is great. And like I was saying in the last episode, that's my favorite pillar, is working out. But it's also the one that I sacrifice first when things go wrong. I don't even realize I'm doing it, but I'll just stop going to the gym. This week is the first week I've worked out in the last 2.5 months, just because I've been under a lot of stress. And I'm glad to be getting back on track. But everybody's going to have their preferred pillar. Some people are social butterflies, and some people are introverts, and they're very social, but not in the traditional sense. Like I said, not everybody's going to go out for drinks at the bar with their friends on Friday night. That's not everybody's idea of fun. So it's awesome to kind of talk about these different things. Something that introverts can do, something that extroverts can do. Justin, we were having a conversation the other day, I think, about things that you've done.
Who's the dummy now? Is that one?
No.
Is that the one you're referring to?
No, there's something we were talking about that you've done in the past, or you've seen where that social aspect is there, kind of using 21st century technology, right? The internet's there and everything. But even before that, if people that are our age, we didn't always have the internet.
No, yeah, we met up in parking lots, right? I mean, that sort of thing. I mean, not that long ago,
Right.
Realistically. I mean, even cell phones were just a way, early cell phones. I mean, it was just like, hey, let's just, instead of me having to try to find you in the parking lot and go, hey, we're going to meet up at 8:00, call you on a landline, say, hey, I'll meet you at the Sonic downtown, or the burger joint, in an hour, if my mom lets me, and then, just try to find each other or whatever, and wait around in the parking lot, waiting for people to show up just to hang out or go somewhere or whatever, meet up. So, hey, Joey, before we get too far ahead, let everybody know, some of your background, man. How'd you get here?
Yeah, sure. So I've known Justin since I, started in the fire service. I started off at Poplarville Fire Department. I met Justin first. He was my captain. He was really on me, and talking about social pillars, man, Justin, you need some resiliency whenever he's your captain. I can tell you that. I give a lot of props to these two, Rob and Justin. They're some amazing people. I give a lot of credit to where I come from, the ideas I had, and how I developed from a young man to where I am now. I joined at the age of 18, and thanks to their help, I got really involved in the world of public safety among all aspects, whether it be law enforcement, emergency medicine, fire, emergency management. Everything is really interesting to me, and the amount of knowledge that they shared with me, the perspective they gave me, helped me in every way possible. Just like how I was mentioning with Astro United, the organization, I used Beam and NIMS technique, span of control, to create this the administrative chain of command. So, I started off in public safety, did that for about 6 years. Now I've been involved in a number of things, whether it's security work. I used to be a dispatcher, and I currently work at an interfacility transport ambulance service. So it kind of follows me wherever I go. And I started off at Poplarville, ended up moving to Nashville to try and branch out and live life a little bit, see what I can do with the skills that they taught me up here. So something I've been doing on the side for maybe the past year and a half now is Astro United, managing the esports org just on my spare time through Discord. So that's a little bit about me,
EMT basic certified, EMT advanced certified.
Yeah, I was about to say, he started off as a volunteer without any training and wound up going through the Aries program. Got EMT
That's
basic,
right.
and then turned around and went to advanced EMT when we're finishing that up now. So
Yep.
hopefully you have that rocker on your patch here pretty soon.
Oh yeah, man. Whenever I first started, I didn't know anything, and that's probably one of the best virtues I've I have, and I recommend to everyone is be coachable. Justin made me coachable, whether I wanted to be coachable or not. He said, "You want to be here, you need to learn." And I just got done telling the same story to my roommate the other day because he never really understood what I went through and what it meant to be on the fire department in Poplarville. And I told him, I said, I was just out and about. I walked from the high school down, and I better have that rope around my waist, otherwise I'm doing push-ups. I better know, I better know my knots. And if I didn't, then Justin would make sure I would. And I kind of have that attitude of like, man, you don't have to be like that. You don't have to teach me this, or don't worry, I'll get it. It's not a hard concept. But the reality is, people need help in the next 10 minutes, and I better know it in 10 minutes. If I don't, it's my fault.
Yeah, that's the only
He,
thing is we don't get to choose when those 911 calls come in.
exactly. So it,
Do you make you
yeah.
do the knots behind your back with your fire gloves on?
Oh yeah, I mean, he made me do them in every which way, with gloves, and he said, do it with gloves because to it's night and day difference. Actually, Rob, I'll show you an example. I use that same technique on someone teaching a first aid class. It's on Poplarville's pictures, I believe, or Aries's, but there was a student we were teaching. I'm like, here's a 4x4 bandage, just patch up the dummy, and he did it without a problem. I untabbed the tape, put the gloves on him, and I said, "Now, patch up the dummy." And he's sitting there, trying to fiddle with the tape, trying to get it on there. And I said, "And I'm timing you, by the way, And he's like, "Oh, I got it done." I'm like, "How long do you think that took you?" He's like, "Man, it must have been at least a minute and a half, 2 minutes." And I said, "Actually, it was about 12 seconds. It took you about 12 seconds to do all that." That shows whenever you're in an uncomfortable situation just how fast you think time is going by, and it's really not. That's an effect of stress and duress, and practicing that is what we call stress inoculation. And I told him, I said, don't freak out, get used to doing things with gloves, and build that resiliency and become make stressful situations tolerable.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting you say that. It is out of the lane of the social pillar, but we'll
yeah, yeah,
well, not so much that it's a problem. It's just the one of the things that we've been running into with a lot of the CPR classes that we teach and people that are coming from our class and then going to do this in the real world is, they'll rock it in the class. And it's funny, most people when they're doing their compressions in the CPR class are going way too slow. I don't know if that's because they don't want to break the dummies or
they don't know how hard to push.
Yeah, because they're still learning, right? But it's a different world when that's a real person on the ground and they're dying and you're like, oh crap. A lot of times we rush it. We're going to be compressing it that fast. Hands on 30, ready to go again. And being able to slow yourself down at least to a controlled amount. Get that tunnel vision out. Get that freak out mode out. That's huge. Because we're not superhuman, right? You're a person. You've got stress just like me. We freak out when we see things that go wrong. We have to kind of stop, take a breath, and get it done. The only problem is that because we're not superhuman, these calls weigh on us, right? And that's kind of the point of these episodes, to bring it back into the pillars, is that you deal with a call where it's a sick kid or a really bad trauma where the person is not one solid person at the moment. There's body parts missing and things like that. And how do you deal with that? So one of the things that a lot of people do, and this is why this particular pillar is so important, is because we isolate. Especially, first of all, we're men. We're bad about isolating in general. Secondly, in our field, we have this mindset that the people who aren't in our field aren't going to understand. And so we start to isolate off. We stop talking to them. And that leads to these problems where the social pillar starts to crumble because we don't want to go out, because what are they going to want to talk about? What's the worst question, Justin? The worst question anybody outside of EMS can ask you?
Oh, what's the worst thing you ever saw, man? You saw anybody like dismembered or whatever? Did anybody die? Yeah.
Right. To them, it's just a normal conversation. They're like, oh, he's going to tell me about this really awesome call or whatever. The problem is the worst call we've been on is not an awesome call. It's just that's how some people see it. The ones that haven't been through that call, where people didn't make it, or where even if they did, that 8-year-old girl might remind you of your daughter, and suddenly the whole time you're working on this kid, you're just seeing your kid. And so you're stressed out and that kind of thing. Or even worse, it is your kid. We had a call right after I moved to New York that was two teenagers got hit by a car, and we go out there to it. And I didn't know anybody there. I just got on that department. We get out the truck, and the rest of the firefighters on scene just run at the driver of the truck and tackle him and won't let him go anywhere near the scene. It wound up being because it was one of his kids was one of the ones that got hit. These things are hard. It's hard to deal with some of the stuff, especially in our field. And for people who are listening that aren't in our field, it doesn't mean that you don't have these stresses. There's going to be things that life loves to throw at you too, which is the whole point of these episodes now, is I'm kind of talking about how can we do this. So introverts, we really kind of hit that hard right out the gate. With the esports, I love it. I think it's great. And it's interesting because times have changed. We were talking the other day, when we were kids, when me and Justin were kids, if you played video games, you were the nerd. That was it. Like that wasn't cool. It wasn't smiled upon other than by other games.
It wasn't accessible. A lot of people couldn't afford it. You know what I mean? It was like anything else that's new. It's like computers, when computers first came out, it was super expensive, super big, bulky. You couldn't play games on your phone like you can now. You had this big freaking, console that you had to have it in your house. So for those of you listening that are pretty young, there used to be a store that you went to and you had to go and find movies on a shelf and pull the movie off the shelf and rent it
Blockbuster
for the night. But also in those places, you could also rent game consoles for the night or the day or the week, or whatever, and games. You had to rent each game and stuff like that. So, that sort of stuff just wasn't accessible as accessible as it is now.
And even then, those games weren't. And I blame this and I think this on the internet. Games today have a huge social aspect, which is great. Like the esports and everything that's been going on. MMOs, massive multiplayer online games, that they're built around everybody's in this. So when you play this game, It's not just you.
Yeah, the internet being attached to the games now and stuff.
Yeah, or even just you and a friend sitting next to each other sharing one TV screen. Now it's like I'm playing with 500 different people and I'm interacting with these people. You might be playing Call of Duty and some 12-year-old German kid shoots you in the head and laughs at you on the thing.
Chat.
But you have that interaction, and if you want to talk shit back, you can talk shit back, that kind of thing. But back then, it was, I'm playing Legend of Zelda, and that's a one-player game. If you had a friend over, one of you was watching the other one play Legend of Zelda. That was it. There was no two-player. It wasn't even like Mario. And so if that's what you did, then that also meant you typically just sat at home alone playing video games. So you actually were much more of a recluse than you are in today's games.
You had to wait a week to tell your friend about it. Wait till the weekend so you could go to their house and hang out and then go, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna play this game.
Finally beat Zelda.
Yeah, you got to go rent it from the movie store.
Now you can stream it and from your computer, and they can watch you in real time while they're using the restroom, just on their phone.
You can play it on the plane. You can be on the plane playing it,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Twitch, isn't it? Twitch has become a really big thing these days. So again, that builds up more of that community, and there are extroverts that are doing this. So this is not just an introvert thing. You've got people that would be just as happy going out to a Buffalo Wild Wings with 10 of their friends, but we're not that one-dimensional in the world. So that person probably loves watching video games or playing video games as well.
Well, and not even just the gaming aspect, or the competition stuff. It could be real estate. It could be cars. It could be, just any type of, subset, community that you can think of, or, a profession or a hobby, anything like that is, has its little niche and spot on the internet now, And so again, it was AOL chat rooms, it was Yahoo chat rooms, all these different things like that,
You're old without telling us
right.
You're old.
And it was all that sort of stuff. And now, like I said, it's just really developed into full on communities where it's not, we're just sharing a picture of my hot rod. No, man. It's, they're swapping parts back and forth. And then, people are doing meetups and all these other different things based off of it to share, tips and tricks and just to hang out and have community lunches and, whatever might, be applicable to to that kind of community. But man, I mean, there's so much out there for anybody. So I mean, don't feel left out if you're like, oh man, I don't do sports, I'm not a sports person or whatever. It's whatever you have some kind of interest in. I mean, I think that everybody has something that they like. I mean, even if you're an introvert and you like art, you know, I mean, there are people just nonstop all around the world talking about every single type of art. I mean, there's, Hispanic, street art, and stuff like that, especially out on the West Coast. They're doing a lot of stuff with, with inner city youth and all sorts of different things too. And so there's tons of different things like that. And there's graffiti artists and, street art and everything else that people, so it doesn't have to be, very sophisticated, Italian art, for it to be mainstream. There's a ton of that stuff out there. So whatever your enjoyment is, there's a community for it.
Yeah, if you can get out and do stuff, I mean, fantastic. Get out and go to things like cruising the coast down here in Biloxi, or I mean, there's
a boat show this weekend. I mean, there's
yeah,
I mean, there's all sorts of things, happening and moving and shaking. And again, not everybody's a mover and shaker, right? But again, there is something for everyone.
And even for the people that aren't movers and shakers, like let's say that you love cars or you love boats, but you don't love getting out of your house.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people. In fact, one of my best friends in high school, if he never had to leave his house, in fact, I think he's probably living like a hog I don't even have a real analogy for that. I want to stop there. But he, now that you can even get your groceries pretty much just delivered to your house, he may not leave his house again. If he ever found like a work from home job, he'd never leave his living room. But that's okay. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go out. Like I said, being social doesn't mean going to Buffalo Wild Wings and being around a bunch of noisy people.
Right.
You can do stuff online. The esports is a fantastic thing. Joey, what's your experience with Reddit, for example? Because Reddit, is a website that's got all these subreddits and everything that are. If you like cars but you don't want to get out, then join a car subreddit, and you still have that community there.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I've been on Reddit for a while, and I kind of got out of it. I moved on to other things. I use Reddit as a tool now more than anything. Um, Specifically because I have the Astro United and 300 people on there at all times to chat with and talk about things with. But yeah, there's just like what Justin was talking about. There's a lot of different forums out there. There's a lot of places for any interest, and that's basically Reddit in a nutshell. You have these subcategorized boards of Reddit forums. You can go to r/firefighting and find people on there. I see people all the time on the internet going, "Hey guys, my department is putting together a truck committee. What do you think about this year Pierce from this year? We're looking at these. Any issues there? Any specific details that we're overlooking here?" And you're going to find a lot of people giving you a lot of really helpful information. People that are typically nice. I think
great sense of the humor on Reddit too. Like I'll get distracted reading comments on something and just laughing my ass off at the way people will respond. They're not really mean. And one of the things I love about Reddit is that if somebody is a dick, they usually get downvoted. You can upvote and downvote things. So if somebody's just being that way, they get downvoted into oblivion, and then nobody ever sees their comment anyway. So
absolutely,
that's a good thing about it.
And I want to hit on something real quick. And so when we're talking about using these online platforms to be social and have exchange of information, some interaction between each other around ideas, is there's always going to be the person on there that doesn't like what you have to say. They're going to troll you. They're trying to get a reaction out of you. And I just got to say that I see a lot of people succumb to that, and it makes them anxious. I have to say that probably one of the best mindsets you can have when being on the internet, because you do have to have a mindset. It's just someone's talking to you. You can take it personal, or you can just say that's just another random person on the internet. I've been told to kill myself multiple times on a Reddit forum for having an opinion about the Legend of Zelda games.
If it's anything other than they're awesome, then you and I might have to throw down, but I ain't gonna take it.
Right. Yeah. So point being is, I have the mindset that, don't take things personally. People, you can only control what you can control in life. Don't worry about everyone else. And one of those things is your emotion and your confidence on yourself. Have the mindset that, people are always going to have a different opinion than you. It doesn't make them right. It doesn't make your opinion any less valued. And more importantly, I really want to hit on the physical pillar that you guys were talking about.
Yeah,
Being physically fit, going to the gym will raise your confidence, and then that anxiety you feel when going out for any reason will eventually start to go away. So, I think that's an excellent point you made.
absolutely. Yeah, when we were going back to kind of dating ourselves here, when we were kids in the 80s and early 90s, bullies were definitely a thing. And they didn't go anywhere. Our culture has gotten to where we've pushed them out of the light. But you get online and you get to where people are the only connection they have to you is that connection. They're not seeing you face to face. A lot of times you don't know who they are or whatever. Then yeah, they're going to say some things that maybe some pent up frustration or whatever, and that sucks. But
Oh yeah.
that is
But you
what
can,
it is. Ultimately in those cases, we gear this toward adults. So as adults, typically we know that if we can't fix a situation, we just remove ourselves from it in a healthy way. Just log off or block the person, or something like that. So it is there. It is something you have to watch out for. But you can't let it get to you if somebody does that. Sometimes it's just because that's their way of coping in a horrible way, but that's their way of coping with whatever they got going on. I remember my parents used to tell me that when I was a kid, that the people who were being bullies to me were doing that because they were hiding something, or maybe they had a bad home life or something. And a lot of times that's the case. That what they're putting on you is a projection of what they've been having to deal with, which sucks. Like I said, because everybody's life is hard for everybody. It's not just something that's exclusive to people in our field. So,
Mhm.
um,
Absolutely. I mean, and I'll even say this, that's a small amount of people. I wouldn't, if we're addressing the introverted crowd, you can make a lot of great relationships. It's a great tool. I've had people come down from New York. I'm not sure if I told you this, Rob, but a couple years ago, I had a friend that lived in Buffalo. I'm not sure exactly where, but I think we were both 18, 19. He flew down from Buffalo and we hung out for like a week.
hmm.
Yeah. And I had another friend come from Texas and the Mississippi, and we all hung out. So people do these meetups and stuff. Once you start to know someone and get involved with them, you'll make actual in-person friends by developing a relationship that's just revolving around a topic you both enjoy.
Well,
So
my really a
absolutely.
couple of my best friends today came from an online game I played over 10 years ago. So
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
But you know what I'm hearing, Justin, is a whole lot of people came to see Joey. I ain't heard one location that Joey went to see his friends
Right.
though.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, so we've kind of got a good grasp on the introverted, but let's talk about the extroverted, because again, even extroverts may not find any kind of fun in going out to a bar. That may not be the thing. And not only that, but you start flirting with alcohol, sometimes you run the risk of overdoing it. I mean, I say that as we're sitting here having drinks doing this podcast, but it can, all things in moderation are great. Have a drink. That's cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Just don't let it run your life. We've seen the downsides of what that can do. But what are some other things? You played sports in high school, so your physical pillar, it was pretty strong in your history. Um, as you've progressed with those extroverted character traits that you used to have, or I'm sure you still have it just by knowing you, what do you do outside of going out to a bar or something like that? What are some things that you do that kind of get you around people?
Well, I want to touch up on some things real quick, and I just want to say I used to not always be the big guy laughing and joking around a lot. I actually was an introvert. I was heavily introverted all throughout middle school at a younger age. I was nervous around people. I didn't even like going out and like talking to strangers or anything. I didn't have anything to say. I know that's hard to believe that I don't have anything to say, but it took me a while to get out of that. I grew up in a very much different household than a lot of other people, and I wasn't allowed to do a lot of the things, whether it be by rules or financial status. But pretty much when I got into middle school, I started seeing people become more introverted, or I'm sorry, extroverted, and making jokes. And I saw people hanging out with each other, and I said, "Well, I kind of want to try that." And I failed miserably. I kept trying to be the class clown and things, and it just didn't work out. It made me sad, but eventually over time, I started to mature and realize that hey, joking around with people is fun and all, as long as it's with the right people. And I just started to slowly develop these extroverted skills of picking up on people's cues and things. And that made me able to be around really any group of people. So by the time I was in high school finishing up, I was literally part of the football team. I played sports, and a lot of the guys from football was still today some of my best friends. And I can hit them up and say, "Hey, man, can you do me a favor?" And they'll say, "Yeah, what's up?" And I'll do the same for them. But I would also go to the band hall and play Magic the Gathering, and beat up some of the band kids with my Magic deck. You know, I was able to
Now
fit in with a
you're
lot of
talking
crowds.
about my crowd in high school. I was the band geek that
Yeah.
played Magic the Gathering all through high school.
So, basically, to answer your question, man, some of the things that I do is really kind of depending on how I'm feeling. If I'm like, man, I haven't went out and listened to music at Broadway in Nashville for a while, sometimes I'll just take an Uber down there and I'll have a drink, and I became confident, through repetition, just like talking to anyone else online. Um, I just talk to that one person. I can walk up to a stranger and say, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And I actually there's a place called Chewy's. It's a Mexican bar, sports bar, and I was just sitting on the edge of the bar eating, and I just talked to this lady right next to me, and her husband was right next to her, and we got into a really deep conversation about like religion and church and stuff. And it was like a 2 hour conversation. They enjoyed it so much they bought all my drinks.
Oh,
Yeah, they put it on their tab and they said, "Man, it was really great to meet you," and we had a great conversation. And just that little 2 hour, spectrum there, or timeline, was that's a memory. They bought my drinks, great conversation, great food. I enjoyed the environment. Um,
No, you know,
went to
not to interrupt you, Joe, but those types of, chance happenstance, meetings like that, whether it's at a bar or on a Discord, group or whatever it might be, um, those have, historically have changed people's lives. I mean, people have, built businesses off of those types of chance meetings. They've, just by putting themselves out there a little bit and going, "Hey, this is me. How are you doing?" And that stuff has snowballed into major corporations and business and, social gatherings and music festivals. And I mean, all these things have come from stuff like that.
even just on personal notes, I mean, those chance encounters have been what stepped people back from the ledge a couple of times.
Right.
So I mean, it is good to get out and do something. You don't have to go to a loud arena or something like that, but just get out. And really, the ultimate goal is to try to fight that isolation. Try to stop yourself from shutting the world out. That's the big thing. However you want to go about doing it. And in our field, in the EMS and everything, for ambulance riders, like EMTs and paramedics, it's a little bit harder because you're kind of stuck in that truck with your partner, and that's almost getting depending on where you work. But fire departments, we do have that culture of family a little bit better. We have the shift meals and stuff, like even in Poplarville, little bitty town Poplarville, back when we were just one person deep on a shift. It really wasn't that uncommon to have the EOC workers come over, or some of the volunteer firefighters from the county would come over, or just volunteers at Poplarville would come and hang out for a little while, at least back when I was there. And now these departments have kind of picked up their numbers a little bit. Poplarville doesn't just work one person a day anymore. So you get that partnership. And then we had the cops, can't tell you how many times Justin would be cooking food for us and the police department would come over and eat it all.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that you can use the friends from work, and the best part about that is they do know what you're going through because they do it too. They may or may not have been on that call, but they get it. Most of us in the field don't really have that macho, at least not when it matters. That macho, I'm not affected by anything or whatever. I'm in a Facebook group called Savage Firehouse, and it's interesting. We shoot the shit all day long. We send memes back and forth. We try to offend each other. We try to make each other laugh. It's a place where dark humor flourishes. We'll say that. But when something's going wrong, when any of us are actually struggling, nobody bashes for that. The minute somebody says anything about having a hard time or something like that, everybody comes out of the woodworks and is like, "Hey, give me a call," or they'll call them. Nobody kind of gets left behind. And that's a big thing because depending on the field you're talking about, like the military, for example, the military is extremely high risk for suicide. Veteran suicide is just it's stupid how high the numbers are. And a lot of that is because there's a stigma around mental health, which we're going to kind of get into in a future episode. But we're really bad about not thinking that we can go to somebody, even if it's somebody who might have been on the same call, or works on the same shift or the same department, opposite shift or whatever. I mean, we kind of do need to get a little bit better about not really sitting around doing like a kumbaya episode or whatever, but just kind of, hey, something's bothering me. I need to talk about it. We talked about critical incident stress debriefings and teams and everything in the previous episode. I want to hit those again just because they're very, very useful. They're made up usually of people who are in our field or close to it, so they kind of understand what we're going through. And again, you don't have to treat it like you're being shrunk in the head by a psychologist or whatever, but sometimes just getting it off your chest is really necessary, because otherwise you're going to sit there and you're going to fester on those thoughts, and then those thoughts are going to kind of snowball.
Well, on that note, Rob, that's and I used this the other day on a call. We had a guy, a veteran, that was having some bad thoughts and was going through some bad stuff in a relationship or whatever. But one of the best analogies, and it works really well here, especially us being kind of EMS centric, is getting people to understand what those issues are, right? So whether it's PTSD, which PTSD is really kind of the stigma has kind of been put on the military, but if you've been an EMT, if you've been an EMT or an EMS, been in EMS, law enforcement, the fire service for any amount of time, and it doesn't take long, you probably have some mild form of PTSD, right? And so, and the thing about it is, it's like some people just don't understand what that is. It's no different than you having a patient that has a cut on their arm, right? It hurts, it bleeds, it's a wound, right? So these mental things, these things that are going on in your head, these thoughts, these, the sleepless nights, having physical pains, all these different things, jitteriness, irritability, all those different little warning signs, those are just like that blood coming out of your arm, just like the pain you feel from the cut or the abrasion or whatever it might be. It's no different than any of those types of traumatic, physical traumatic wounds. It is a wound. It's a mental, laceration basically, and it will heal. It can get better. It takes a little time, right? We and what do? We go to a professional sometimes, and if it's bad enough, and when it's bad enough, we go and we get a professional to check things out, put some sutures in it, put some, give us a little bit higher grade of a medicine or pain reliever or something like that to get us through, right? And it's no different with mental issues, or depression or any of these types of things. Sometimes, everybody's different. Everybody's absolutely different. And sometimes those things just take time to heal. But sometimes you can get away with, talking to peers and working through it that way. And a lot of times that will help. And if you'll do that early on, just like if you will go and clean that wound and, take a good shower, clean it up real well, put some Neosporin on it or whatever, and bandage it correctly or whatever, and change your bandages and stuff, you probably don't need to go to the doctor. You're probably just fine, right? No different with your other, mental issues. And so, but don't be afraid that, hey, if this thing is not healing, if it's not stopping, the bleeding won't stop. I can't get this, I can't get these images out of my head. I can't sleep at night. All those, late stage warning signs like that. Go talk to somebody, go let somebody put some proverbial sutures in there and debris it and clean it out. And let's go back and try to see if we can have a good solid playing field to start from and find out what's going on in there. Is it infected? Whatever. And I'm using all these analogies because, it really is very similar to that, as far as the way we treat things and how we look at stuff. And so if you think about things like that, and especially if you're in EMS, I mean, you're dealing with people like this, I mean, this is a good way for you to communicate that to them. Hey, look, one of the other big things that I've heard, that I've been exposed to, this, saying is that all these things are normal reactions, or they are normal responses to abnormal events, right? So an abnormal event, like
Hurricane.
a bad call, a tragic call with a child, or an animal, or whatever, whatever it catches your sensitivity there, that those things are abnormal for you and for your brain. I mean, you're a human, and so you're not used to seeing those things.
Something that I always found interesting, and it was a very similar analogy to this. You get a big cut on your arm, you need to get that looked at, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So a wound happens, you lose your hand. We get that. But the problem is that we're bad about going, that one wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
That one wasn't so bad. I'm all right. We'll move on. And you get another cut and another cut. And they're small. They're small cuts. Not anything that we would ever really worry about. Little paper cuts. But
Right.
a million paper cuts, or just a bunch, eventually they add up. And that's
Right.
kind of the problem is, and this is where resiliency comes in, because when that's the kind of stress you're dealing with, when you
Cumulative stress.
you get to the point where, you're like, holy crap, something's got to give. I am carrying a ton of problems. What do I fix? And then you start looking at everything. You're like, holy crap, there's so many things. I could spend a month doing nothing but fixing everything I can, and I will barely scratch the surface, because there's not one big thing to fix. I think that's a lot of times that winds up being the case too. And because they're small cuts, we really don't realize how much they're affecting us until it's too late.
Right.
So that's where this resiliency comes in, right? Trying to find these ways of keeping yourself moving, help kind of get you out from under that mountain of pine straw that weighs you down. But that's kind of where we're going at with this. Is there anything you guys can think of that might be good at, social pillar stuff to add in? We talked about online sports, esports, Reddit. We hit a lot of stuff for introverts. Extroverts are easy. Extroverts they enjoy the things that we typically go to. Like, all right, gonna go out with friends, get out of the house, go play a team sport. Team sports are fantastic because they hit almost every one of the pillars by themselves. If you're playing football, you've got the physical pillar, you've got the emotional pillar. You got the social pillar, you've got the spiritual pillar.
Depends on who your team is. You might have that emotional pillar.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, imagine being a State fan. Someone check on your State fans.
What's
What's going on with y'all?
Nah, he's just talking smack because he's an Ole Miss fan.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I got you. I was about to. I'm an LSU fan, so I'm a Saints fan. I spent most of this season going who dat, not necessarily cheering the team, but trying to figure out who the player was on the field wearing that jersey, because I didn't recognize any of them.
I watched State drop 4 touchdown passes against the Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl, and that meme, it's a new meme coming around. Emotional damage. That's exactly how I felt for the State fans. But touching base on what you said, Rob, man, I want to add on to that a little bit. You're talking about extroverts. Things being a little bit easier for the extroverts. And you guys actually helped me out with this, especially with Justin. He was absolutely right talking about a normal response with abnormal events. And we had actually saw Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman together, and he had done like a study that showed there's like 5% of like all soldiers that seen combat, only like 1 to 5% actually didn't show significant mental injuries with PTSD, but like 95% did. So that's the proof that it's normal. I'm an extroverted person. And, I was going through some things, and I can't remember the exact name of the restaurant, but Justin and you had taken me out, and I had began talking to you all about a lot of things. And you're like, man, why didn't you talk to me about this sooner? And it's just because a lot of times people don't want to burden other people with their problems.
I'm personally bad about that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are extroverted, if you are in like a good mindset, check on your friends. I'll try and check in on mine every now and again. I'm not the best at it, but if you see your extroverted friends beginning to isolate themselves, that is a sign. It's a sign of depression, which is running rampant among our country. And what I think is funny is our insurance pays for yearly checkups. Sometimes you get two yearly checkups. Hey, what's going on? Do a blood draw, and see what's going on with you. But we don't do yearly checkups for our first responders. You don't have a bi-yearly mental health evaluation. How are you doing? How are you feeling? What calls did you have? What's going on? So we have to rely on each other and say, I'm going to be your mental checkup right now. I'm
No, it's
going to
interesting.
contact you.
It's interesting you say that. I just want to inject this. Departments that are able to do it, because a lot of times it comes down to funding. You're absolutely right. We've got the checkups every year for NFPA 1500 to say you got to go and get your hearing checked and get your blood drawn and stuff like that. But nowhere in there is a mental health check. The military does it, but not fire departments. I've noticed that any fire department I've gone to, they either A, they didn't do anything at all, mostly because of budgeting reasons, and B, if they did, they only really focused on the physical. They wanted to make sure you could physically do your job. And that was about as far as it went. So, I just want to inject that in. By all means, keep going. But that's, you really reminded me of that, because that is a huge shortcoming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, a lot of it's anxiety, having social interaction with people, trying to build that up. It all revolves around anxiety. And that's exactly what PTS can give you if you're a first responder. Just like Justin was saying, or you Rob, talking about the cuts on your arm, one here, one there, and then eventually it builds up, and you yourself may not even notice it. That's why it's important to just let talk to people. It's if not just for fun or entertainment, just for your mental health. Make a connection of people, whether it be online, whether it be in person. I can't tell you, man, how many people I've talked to, online that's a public servant of some sort, and we become friends, and they'll talk to me about things, and I give them that opportunity to get it off their chest. Just ask them, be like, "How are you feeling?" If you see something, "Oh, I'm fine." Like, no, come on, man, how you doing? Do anything fun lately? Things like that. Let them get some of that. Let them reaffirm that. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to diagnose them with anything. But going back to the 80-20 rule I learned when doing sales is let them talk 80% of the time. Most of the time, in order to fix these problems, you don't have to talk at all. You don't even have to be an extrovert. You just have to be there and ask them questions and just listen to them. Be genuine and care about them. And they'll talk 80% of the time. You'll talk 20%. And what you've done is something short of a miracle. You may have saved that person's life by just offering yourself to society.
Giving them the opportunity to talk about what's on their check. Because a lot of times one of the biggest stresses is not being able to make heads or tails of what's bothering you. But the minute you try to put it into words, it may start off not making any sense. But as you reason through it in your conversation, like you said, that 80% talking, they start to realize what it is that's bothering them.
Exactly. And one of the biggest things, man, is who wants to go out into a conversation and lead with their problems, and I was really bad about that for a long time, and I started to realize it's probably not healthy for me or anyone else, but it is the phrase "who asked." If you can go on about these things and people will go, "Who asked? Who asked to hear about that?" And sometimes that's acceptable, but no, realistically, like who's asking? Who's asking if people's okay? We need to normalize that within, especially the first responder side of things. Hey, man, how are you doing? What a absolute light in the darkness that is. Someone asked. You have an excuse to talk about it. You have an excuse to fix yourself now, because deep down you're like, I don't want to burden someone else with my problems. But they are asking you, how are you doing? They want to know. You're helping them by helping yourself. And I just can't stress that enough. And that's something that I personally am trying to practice what I preach,
Sometimes you do have to kind of, especially with type A, public safety centric, people generally are that way. And so sometimes you do have to kind of get in there and say, hey, look me in the face. Like I'm here for you, man. Like I genuinely want to hear what you have to say. I can tell, especially, if you see it or whatever, somebody points it out or whatever, like, listen, man, or girl, we see what, we see some things, man. We see that you're not eating as much, right? We have shift meals together and you don't hardly eat. You go sit on the couch and watch TV. Or you're not doing your job like you used to. you used to be gung ho, you're grabbing the hose, you're running drills, you're teaching classes or whatever. Now you're just like, yeah, whatever, I don't feel like doing anything. You're maybe not first one to the door on the EMS call or the rec or whatever. You're kind of lagging behind and that sort of thing. And, again, it could be just issues at home. This doesn't have to be, we've been talking a lot about job induced stress, but it could just be things happen at home, right? So you have home life issues, mortgage stuff. House things. All those things. You could have a broken water line in your house and flooding your house.
Yeah.
You just
somebody trying to put up a shelf and drills a screw into your water line.
yeah. Those
while you're
things
at work.
happen, right? While
Oh,
you're
my
at
gosh.
work, and so now you're at work trying to deal with all this other crap.
Specific.
So, yeah, there's all those types of things that come into play there, but it's definitely one of those things that I think we owe our brothers and sisters in public safety, be honest with them. Like, look, I see it. We see it. Please, if you can't talk to me, I understand. Maybe you don't know me that well. Maybe we don't hang out. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we don't hang out on the weekends and you don't come to my house and you don't come to my kid's soccer game or whatever. That's fine. We work together and that's the relationship that we have. That's fine. But brother, sister, whatever, look, I can tell something's going on. You don't have to tell me. I'm not asking you to tell me, but you need to tell somebody. You need to talk to somebody about it. Let somebody know that you have, just some issues going on, man. And even if it's, clergy, if it's a religious thing, if you're that type of person that you want to go and talk to a priest or, a pastor or a minister or whatever it might be, and get those, get that off your chest or seek some advice, whatever it might be, a friend, a family member, a total stranger sometimes is best because maybe you think that they won't have that bias. And that's why a lot of times these professionals can kind of do that. They're trained to kind of sit back, evaluate, and kind of pick out some of the things that are important that maybe, we don't see as your friend or family. We don't really, we may be jaded a little bit in some of our assessment of that stuff. And so, but usually a third party, a lot of times will be able to kind of go, oh, well, I'm seeing this pretty clear, because I'm on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things I always say is this is the reason why we have coaches on the sidelines in football is because the quarterback can't see everything all the time. Right.
Right.
And it's important to also, and if you see something, if you see somebody acting weird or acting like they're out of sorts, don't just let that go. Right. Don't just wait for somebody else to say something. Even like you said, even if you're not that person's friend or whatever, big deal, say something. Because I'll be honest with you, nobody knows your coworkers like the people that are on the same level with them. If you're waiting on the battalion chief or the fire chief to say something, they may not have a clue.
Mhm.
Well,
they don't really interact that way.
In any profession, right? If you work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, or if you work 12 on, 12 off, or 24 on, 48 off, whatever your schedule is, irregardless, you spend more time with the people that you work with in any industry than you do with your family. So a lot of times that's where it's going to come out at. And so, that's one of those things that's super important for leadership, especially, if you're in a management or leadership position, honestly, I feel like you should be having those talks with your crew or your employees or whatever it might be. Have that discussion with them. Hey, listen, I'm here for you. I have open door policy, and that open door policy is not just for you to bitch and complain about, the TPS reports, right? It really is for you to say, hey, for everybody to be looking out for each other. And that's something that leadership needs to be proactive with and not just go, oh, I don't feel like dealing with that. I don't want to deal with your bull crap or whatever you're doing. But if you got stuff going on at home, you need to leave it at home before you come on shift. Yeah, well, sometimes people can't just throw the switch, man. You know what I mean? And so it's understandable that kind of stuff happens. But as a good leader, a good manager, you need to be able to, read those different types of personalities in your group and try to offer some type of assistance there.
I'd actually like to provide some basically supporting evidence, Justin, everything you just said, and also look at it from a different angle. So leadership, being there for your guys, right? One of the best things that you can do in practice as a leader is empathy. Empathy, caring for your people, ask them how they're doing. Why is this going on? Are you okay? That's a good question to ask people. But also, what I've learned as someone along the lower levels, we also need to have empathy for our leaders as well. And if your leadership starts to slack a little bit, sometimes you need to check on them. One of the things, I'm not going to give any names here, but this happened 2 months ago. I started picking up on some things with a brand new shift commander at my work. And, this isn't just a virtue signal, but to show evidence of this, I like to go in there and ask him, hey man, how you doing lately? Because we didn't have a whole lot going on. I just sitting there chatting with him while he's working. Oh, and he was just in a daze, rambling, starts talking, gets into his problems and going. Eventually, he says out of the blue, don't have a lot of money. Christmas is coming up. Kind of worried that I'm not going to be able to get my kids something for Christmas. He was like, oh, that's kind of rough, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, why is that? And he's like, well, I had COVID and that put me back a lot. And it, like I really wanted to get him something that's probably gonna be the first year I can't get my 17-year-old son something for Christmas. And it sucks, man. It's really eating at me. So what did I do? I told someone. I actually went to the head shift commander and I talked to him. I said, man, just giving you a heads up. Kenny's going through some hard times. He opened up to me in confidence, and I don't want to spread his business around, but he's having some hard time financially and with his kids. And what we did was I talked to the rest of the shift commanders. We spread it out, and I gave $100, and 3 other shift commanders gave $100, and together we were able to come up with a big chunk of change. And we gave him a card about a week before Christmas. I said, thanks for all your hard work that you've been doing as a shift commander. We appreciate your leadership. We wanted to show you some appreciation, not to show them that, hey, we heard you were hard off on money, but just something to bring him out and show him that we had his back. And he knew immediately because he called me that next morning. Dude was bawling his eyes out on the phone. Seriously, a grown man saying thank you for checking in on me, man. He's like, I know we were having a conversation and I said that and it was little. He goes, I honestly didn't even think you were listening. And here we are. I have money to go buy this kid something, and this has helped me out more than you even know. Whether that's financially, whether that's mentally, and it all started from me just chilling and saying, "Man, how are things going?" And you can
Yeah.
make that massive of an impact with your leaders and your crew if you're in a leadership position, just by asking that one question and being legitimate when you ask it.
And that's one of the things too. And I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this to come across like you need to share everybody's business with everybody you work with and everybody does something for them. But
Right.
if you can start a cultural change where everybody watches out for everybody, you don't have to have somebody tell you what somebody's going through or that somebody's having an issue. Everybody's going to see it, right? Because we're all looking, we're all having each other's backs. And with that being said, no one person has to be the miracle worker. If you work on a shift with, we'll say, 3 other people, and you're all watching each other's back, if everybody notices when somebody is starting to struggle and everybody just gives a nudge, how hard is that? And it can, as just like what you were saying, when it all comes together, it adds up. It really helps. And you don't even really have to do anything other than just let them know that you're noticing and that you care and that you're there. Sometimes that's all you got to do is say, hey man, I see you're struggling. There was a couple of years, Jesus Christ, probably like 13, 14 years ago by now. But there was a day I was sitting at the station in Poplarville, in the old station, kind of put that into perspective. And it'd been raining for like a week and a half straight in Poplarville. And I'm just sitting there dicking around on the computer or whatever, and I feel like somebody's looking at me, and I look over and it's Justin, and he's just staring at me. And like, what is going on? And he's like, something's bothering you. I can tell. He's like, it's you ain't got to say anything. It's apparent, and that started the conversation. And he pointed out that it was probably partly because of, we ain't seen sunshine in half a month. That wasn't helping things. But no, I really did. I had some stuff that was going on that I didn't think was that big of a deal, but that's because I didn't realize, again, those multiple little wounds. I didn't realize it was affecting me as much as it was, but he saw it because I was there all the time. He saw me how it normally was, and he saw that shift. And it's really good if you can do that. And you may not catch everything, right? Something may slip by. You can't beat yourself up when something like that happens, but as long as you try to watch, you'll catch more than you miss. And that's the important thing. If everybody does that, then you might miss it, but the other coworker may catch it. And that's huge. That culture of just taking care of each other, even if you're going to give each other some shit in between and stuff like that, it goes a long way. It really does.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I think I'm good for the night. I think that pretty much covers this episode. So if y'all got any last bits of wisdom we can put in here, otherwise we're gonna go ahead and kind of wind it down. Getting pretty close to the end. It's almost 10 o'clock. It's past my bedtime. Getting old. But
Joey, go ahead.
No, I think it was a really good talk. You know, if I can give a little bit of advice and some material to just look over, you can look up Jordan Peterson. He's got some great things for the introverts out there, talking about crushing anxiety and you know, social interactions. Just go on YouTube, type in Jordan Peterson, how to defeat anxiety. A lot of great material, even for you extroverts out there. We all deal with anxiety just in different ways, and check on that. Start building on yourself. It's not that you know, you're weak. Sometimes we just don't know the things to look for. Reach out to your friends and, you know, let your friends know that you're there for them as well, and I'm sure that they'll reciprocate it. And at the end of the day, people come first and take care of each other. So
absolutely. And we'll put that YouTube personality in the episode notes. That way everybody that, you know, missed it or isn't sure how to type his name or whatever, we can actually get that on there so you can see it. Excellent. So I just want to hit again for those of you that may not have been here at the beginning of the episode, if that's even possible, being that it's recorded. But again, Aries Responder Relief Project is up and running. So we are in the building phase right now. Again, trying to raise money for scholarships, trying to raise money for financial relief for different responders, and some financial assistance for those organizations out there, fire departments that can't really afford some of the safety equipment that they really should have. I know that some of the departments around where I got started, we may have like 10 firefighters, but only 7 sets of gear. Everybody's kind of sharing things. I remember seeing a fire chief fighting the fire, exterior, of course, in shorts and flip flops. Not because, well, I won't get into that. But anyway, I remember that to this day. But he actually didn't have his own set of gear. He could have wore something better, absolutely. But that's my point, though, is that, you know, a lot of departments out there don't have the funds. So we want to help that. We want to help fix the cracks in the system, because with COVID and the way things have been going, the cracks in the system aren't little cracks anymore. The whole system is starting to crumble in some places. So, you know, if you want to donate, you can donate. Even if you just got some ideas on how we can improve it, I'll take that. I'm always up for advice. But other than that, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming out tonight, Joey. It's good to see you. Good to hear from you again. And
glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm gonna have to make a trip up to Nashville and catch you on my next route through.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. We all have a great one.